This $150 giant killer amp versus this $350 unicorn amp. Which one is the best value? Let's find out together. These little amps are really starting to push the limit at what's possible at a given price. This comes in at $150. If you're a fan of the channel at all, or if you viewed the channel at all, you're probably getting sick of me talking about these amps. The problem is it's a huge, giant leap forward for us, the customers. Only problem with these amps is they don't have a proven track record. I'm comparing this to the Yamaha AS301. Of course, Yamaha has been around. Yamaha has 50-year-old amplifiers. They've got a bit of pedigree when it comes to manufacturing hi-fi componentry. Fuzzy Audio, 3 years, 5 years, but you can't argue with the performance. Just did a video comparing the AS301, which is a $350 integrated amplifier from Yamaha, to my favorite Advanced Paris A10 Classic, which is a $2,500 integrated amplifier. If you want to check that video out, please check it out, because those amps were closer than what you would expect with such a huge price differential. Let's go over some positive and negatives about each one. Well, actually, there's not a lot of negatives for the Yamaha. For the Fuzzy Audio ZA3, number one, you don't have any tone controls. Number two, you don't have any DAC. But on the flip side of that, you can change out the op amp, so you can affect the sound and spend more money and get better performance. You can also run it in mono and get a little bit more power. If you wanted to add two of these, you're probably going to increase channel separation or improve channel separation as well. And it's cheap. But you're going to have to add a DAC. So when you take $150, you add an $80 DAC, you're already at $230. If you opt for the better power supply, I think that's another $30 or $40. So you're about $250 with an SU1 as the DAC. Still no tone controls. With the Yamaha, you get variable loudness, you get tone controls, you get an internal DAC, you have a subwoofer out. Now you have a subwoofer out on the ZA3 too. Pure direct mode. However, you're not changing the sound. So there's nothing that you can really do that's going to affect the foundational sonic characteristics of the Yamaha. But with tone controls and with the variable loudness control, you can change it sonically, but you're never going to really change the soundstage and imaging of it, unless maybe you add later on a better DAC. So price-wise, when you take into consideration doing an op amp upgrade, doing a power supply upgrade, you need to get a DAC. The Yamaha and the Fuzzy are both kind of coming in right around that $300 to $350 mark. Okay, first track is Patience. It's the cover by Chris Cornell of the beautiful, wonderful Guns N' Roses song. If you haven't listened to this song, I'd highly recommend it. Chris Cornell is probably the greatest voice in rock and roll, God rest his soul. I level matched the Fuzzy Audio ZA3 and the Yamaha AS301 through a test tone on YouTube, airplayed to actually both of the Weems. And I got them both to 77 dB within 0.1 or 2, so very close. The thing that I noticed right away on the ZA3 is it didn't have as much fullness as the AS301 from Yamaha. It wasn't thin per se, but the Yamaha just felt like it had a little bit more oomph. The 21-second mark, 300 hertz is what I found on the real-time analyzer. Anyway, short story, Yamaha had a little bit more oomph. Let's get a better example. Pet by Perfect Circle off the 13th Step album. There's bass drum, snare drum, cymbal, and then it goes do 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 do. So it's that lower guitar. It's happening around 130 hertz. Heftier on the Yamaha AS301. Weightier. Yeah. Alright, this one is a win for the Fozzy Audio. Now the Fozzy Audio has the Sparkos op amp upgrade in it. Only running RCA though. Hearing more reverb on the percussion off of the Fozzy Audio ZA3. The first 15 seconds of it, it's just percussion. And you can hear a lot of spatial cues. Really high-end treble stuff going on. And it's not really the attack on the drum. It's after the attack that you're listening for this echo, really, reverb. More apparent on the Fozzy Audio ZA3. I'm also running the SU1 from SMSL. It's a DAC, so I'm going Weem Pro to the SU1 from SMSL into the ZA3 from Fozzy Audio because the ZA3, well, it doesn't have a DAC. On the Yamaha, it's the internal optical portion of the DAC. So we got a win for bass on the Yamaha AS301, a win for really high up treble with the ZA3 from Fozzy Audio with the Sparkos op amp upgrade. A little bit weightier too, so it feels like the snare drum hit, the percussion, not only the initial attack, the weight of the strike, more apparent on the Yamaha. I'm splitting hairs again, so very, very, very close. Hello by Adele. More articulate vocals. So she's like, hello. So the ooh, that point. More apparent. I guess, not more apparent, more pleasing on the ZA3. So yeah, I think we've beat that horse. Let's go to something else. You know, you're right, Nirvana. The Yamaha is just weightier through the mid-range and all the way down to the bottom. I wish I could actually combine these amps. I wish I could give the ZA3 the mid-range and bass weight that the Yamaha has, and I wish I could give the top-end treble kind of space and air from the ZA3 with the Sparkos to the Yamaha. It would be the perfect amplifier. From a soundstage and imaging perspective, I think the ZA3 does it better. Seems a little bit more natural, more divided as far as where the instruments are in space. I can also hear the overall scale of the recording from where it was recorded. With the Yamaha, more of a wall. With the ZA3 with the Sparkos, more spatially focused, immersive, if you will. You know, the problem is there's stuff from the ZA3 that I really, really love, and there's stuff from the Yamaha that I really, really love. And the ZA3 is giving me some tastes of that higher end audio, that spatial separation. Could be the Sparkos op amps though, because I haven't been listening to the stock ZA3. So the Yamaha to me is a more powerful sounding amplifier. The ZA3 to me is a more articulate higher end amplifier, even though higher end amplifiers also tend to have very palpable, powerful bass. And I know this is kind of a cop-out, but they're both good in different ways. The other thing that I wanted to mention is when I was level matching these, a lot of people in the comments have said how gutless the ZA3 is, or the V3 from Fozzy Audio. And I've been running the ZA3 as just a straight up power amp when I've been doing testing on other videos. The last 5% of the volume span on the pot on the ZA3 is really where you get a significant gain. I've had more than one comment talking about how they have to crank the volume all the way up. That's just a function of the pot that they chose to put into the ZA3. It has nothing to do with the power. So if you want to hear how much power the ZA3 can put out, just crank it all the way to the top and then use something else to control volume. Because I was not willing to go any louder with the ZA3 because I have the Sonus Faber Lumina 2s connected, and that's my new favorite speaker. It's a $1,500 speaker too, and I'm not going to blow those up. But there was enough power coming out of the ZA3 that I was worrying that I was going to blow up the speakers. And it wasn't because of clipping, it was just because of the amount of power. It was kind of linear, and then all of a sudden it got to a certain point, and then it was just like jumped way up. So anybody that says the ZA3 is not putting out enough power with a 48 volt 5 amp power supply, just turn it all the way up and then see. So where would I spend my money? Well, I would spend it on a beautiful vintage receiver. Just kidding. Vintage receivers are like sports cars. They're awesome, but they're going to break down, and you're going to have to fix them. Anyway, where would I spend my money? It depends on where I was at in my hi-fi journey. If I wanted to be kind of one and done, then the Yamaha. Because in theory, you could add a better DAC along the line, which is going to improve soundstage and imaging. If you like to tinker, or if you have a tighter budget starting out, you can upgrade along the way with the ZA3. You don't have to get the turbocharged op amps initially. You don't have to get the turbocharged power supply initially. You can use a $25 DAC initially. So there's a lot to like with the ZA3 because it can grow with you. Yamaha is way more versatile, but I think at the end of the day, the Fozzy Audio, with some upgrades, does sound better. You can get the Yamaha to sound better, but you're going to have to spend even more money on an external DAC or a different phono preamp. I think Yamaha is also a safer bet when it comes to reliability. Now, don't get me wrong. I haven't seen anything from Fozzy Audio or my experience with Fozzy Audio that would lead me to believe there's any quality control issues. But with retail support from people like Crutchfield, the Yamaha's probably a safer bet. If you're into soundstage and imaging, the ZA3 easily beats the Yamaha. If you're into a little bit more weight on the bottom end, and this is in pure direct mode, so this isn't even messing with tone controls or loudness, then the Yamaha is the choice for you. Either way, they are both awesome options. If you like what you're seeing, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can do it. It's right down there. Right down at the bottom of the video, just hit the subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later. And if you don't watch me, I'm not going to show up in your feed anyway. Thank you so much for watching.